Hi, my name is Jay Oza. I teach, mentor, and coach people on public speaking so that they can give winning high stakes speeches, whether it's one on one in a job interview or in front of a small group at a business or sales meeting or in front of a large audience at a conference. Today, I want to talk to you about, I believe, is an important job interview tip. It's the first interaction. Now, I might have covered this in the past, but I believe this is so important that I am compelled to do another video on this. Now, I coach people who do interviews, and some of them I kind of get them in the middle, some of them I get them from the start, and some of them I get them when they're about to go for a final interview. So I get people at all stages. And the one that's very hard for me to fix is when they come to me after they have already had the initial interaction uh, with an employer, whether it's a recruiter or somebody, and then they come to me. And the reason for that is that I believe the first interaction is extremely important. It kind of sets the stage on how well you're going to do. I believe most interviews are won or lost at that point. So let me give you an example. I'm currently coaching a woman, and she had an interview with a defense contractor. And I coached her for the interview, and it didn't go well. So I wanted to find out what exactly happened. The part that I could not help her with is the beginning. I was not involved in that. So I'm going to tell you, if you're ever in this situation, what you should do. The first time you're the first interview really doesn't begin, in my opinion. The interview actually is when you're talking to the hiring manager, the first call. And the purpose of that first call is resume validation. That's all. That person has to validate your resume. If that's not his interest, and that's not your interest to make sure the resume is validated, there is no point in proceeding further because you do not want the resume to come back again. Right? So, what happened to this woman that I was coaching, that there were two managers who got on the call to talk to her. And they had canned questions that they had already prepared. And they just went one after the other. Now, that's the worst interview you can ever do, because that's not even an interview. That's a test or an interrogation, whatever you want to call it. That is not going to help you. If somebody's an amateur, doesn't mean you have to be an amateur. You got to be a professional when you're doing an interview. And you don't have to do all interviews. You only want to do an interview that falls into your sweet spot as far as the position, the process, and the personnel that's going to interview you, the people that are going to interview you. If those things are not right, then you ought to not swing. You should just pass, and that's it. That's what I always tell people. Now, it's difficult for them to always execute on that, but typically when they don't do it, it never goes well, and they get frustrated, and then I have to reset them uh, for the next time, that this is how you should pursue it. So what happened with this woman, getting back to it again, she did not know the process. She did not know why they wanted to even talk to her. What did they like about her background? And what was the purpose of the first interview? But let's say she did find out. At that point, she should have gone back to the recruiter or whoever she was talking to and said, look, I'm only going to be able to spend 20 to 30 minutes on this first call. And what I want the interviewer to do is go through my background and see whether the background is what they're looking for. Because if they're not looking for what you have or what you have done, whether it's resume, academic, whatever, then what's the point of proceeding further? Those questions that they're asking, they don't matter. Because if they like your background, those questions may never even come up. These ridiculous questions that people tend to ask that have nothing to do with the work you can do or your ability, but it's just so that they have the answers and they want to kind of screen out whether somebody is a fit. Now, that's just no way to determine a fit. So you don't want to fall into that trap. And you got to know this information. Because if that first call you don't control, it's unlikely you're going to control the rest of the interview. And it's the first call where you have very little to lose. In fact, you have nothing to lose. And that's when you have to exert your power that you have. Because if you get deep into it, you kind of start, in one sense, you start gaining the power because you're in the game, but you're also losing the control if the other side is driving the agenda. And you're constantly in a react mode. And you're hoping that by reacting, that it'll lead to a job, which hardly it ever does, in my opinion. So what you want to do is assert control right from the get-go. And if you can't assert control right from the get-go, then as I told her that you're playing defense, and you cannot score in the game if you're playing defense. You got to be on offense. In the interview, you want to get the ball first. You want to get the ball first and score. Because if the other side gets the ball, then you're already playing defense right from the beginning. And you don't want to ever do that. So, before you get on the call, you need to know who is going to be interviewing you. What is their objective? What do they like about your background that wants them to talk to you? And what is it they're trying to get out of this interview? And what you want to get out of it is you want to make sure that they are perfectly happy with your background. Now they say that they like your background. That's BS. They have to ask you questions. You want your background as the way for them to discern whether you have the right fit, whether the fit is right, not from something totally extraneous that has nothing to do with your background. So you want them to go in depth into your background and see how good they are. Because if they can't do that, and if you can't get them to do that, then my question to you is, how successful are you going to be during the rest of the interview? And let's say even if you do get a job, how successful are you going to be to get this manager to do some of the things that you're interested in? He's not going to do it. So I always tell people that first call, keep it brief, no more than 20 to 30 minutes, get your resume validated, and then see where you stand. Whether do you want to continue or do you want to end it there? That's how you maintain control of the interview process. If you're not controlling the interview, then you are being controlled, and you can't win that way. I know this is a very difficult advice for many to follow because they feel they're powerless. Look, you're only as powerless based on how you think you are powerless. If you don't think you're powerless, then you're not powerless. And you never want to relinquish this power to some so-called employer or an interviewer. There is no guarantee they're going to hire you if you're powerless. But if you're powerful, then at least they'll respect that. And they may even like that. And may want to hire you because of that. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I know this is, I'm working on a book which I'm going to go into this in more detail. But I just wanted to share this with you, that what I see is that many people blow their chances right in the beginning. They blow it because they don't interview well in the beginning, or they blow it because they've lost control of the interview right from the beginning, and they're essentially powerless. And at the end, they're not going to get the job because somebody else is probably their ideal candidate that they're pursuing, and you're a sucker candidate. And you never want to be a sucker candidate, because there is no price for being a sucker candidate, even if you come in second. You want to be an ideal candidate right from the beginning. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching, and good luck.